This is Ken Pyle, and we're at the ACA Summit 2014, and we are with Tim Himmelwright of Service Electric. And Service Electric has a very storied history here. I mean, we are all here because of Service Electric. Why don't you take us through that a little bit, and we'll ask some questions along the way.
It was actually 66 years ago this spring that John Walson, our founder, who worked for Pennsylvania Power and Light Company as a lineman, went to his bosses at PP&L and said, you know, I own an appliance store with a partner of mine downtown, and I need to be able to get clear pictures on the TVs in my shop so that I can show people how good the pictures look, so I can sell some TV sets.
It is kind of a mountainous area, right? So you're kind of in the valley, or?
Yep. And he went up and ran an unshielded 2-lead line down the mountain on the Pennsylvania Power and Light poles to bring the signal down to the shop. And he set up his 3 TVs in the front window and pointed them out so people could see the pictures, so he get people to come in and buy TV sets in the shop.
And one of the things that you pointed out is he really negotiated the first pole attachment fees, right?
Oh yeah, first pole attachment agreement, because he put it in writing with PP&L that this was allowable and doable with the poles.
So that, I think hopefully a lot of the viewers out there, cable operators and stuff, know that, that's kind of the history of the first cable system. But now let's hear the rest of the story.
Okay. Well, a couple days after John put the TV sets in the front window, the dentist next door came and said, John, I'd buy a TV for my waiting room if I could get those same clear pictures on the set in my waiting room. He said, could you do that for me? He said, yeah, it'd be $100 for installation, $1 a month for the channels. And there started the first cable company. He wrote a check in June of 1948, handed it to John, and the company was born, NIE, the industry.
So the industry is born. I mean, we're already talking about kind of commercial services with a waiting room TV. But then something else happens in town. The chief of police comes into the picture. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, within 2 years after the cable system was started, the chief of police in Montgomery City, a town of about 30,000 people, started his own cable system to compete with John's system. So we've had effective competition in the industry since the very beginning, which most people don't realize.
The other thing it points out, too, is, and I think this still happens to some extent, is the multiple hats that people wear. I mean, John was an employee of the power company. He had a part-time thing with his TV store, and then he became a cable operator.
Oh, yes, and his hands were always into things. He was a tinker. He'd fix things, build things, make it work. He was repairing people's TV sets, and back then it was all tubes. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of tinkering that went on. He made his own amplifiers. He built his own cable boxes in the beginning. He even designed his own tools for crimping and things like that because nobody had one. So what he needed, he designed to go down to the local foundry and say, hey, can you make this for me? They'd make it for him, I should say, and then he had the tools to do the job.
And I see that a lot when I go out to rural America, just how people have to rely on each other and on their own ingenuity.
Oh yes, definitely. And in the history of the cable operators in Pennsylvania, they always helped each other out. Everybody had their own little system in their town, and you get a call from the guy 10 miles away going, hey, could you give me a hand? I'm out of cable, but I need to string the 6 more houses.
Right.
And they'd share things back and forth and help each other out and bail each other out of situations. But that's just how the history of our industry has evolved.
Well, Tim, I appreciate that insight. It's something that I didn't know before, so thank you.
You're welcome.